The questions will come up in the box, yeah?
Okay.
And the questions will be asked when there's a kind of a slight hint and everything goes quiet, inshallah. Or we can also have them at the end if anybody wants to ask any questions. Okay. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Just wanted to welcome everybody to Project Zainab Live on Tuesday, 9 p.m. Today's program is something of a change to our normal topics. I believe it's a very important topic, but nevertheless a very interesting one. That is Western ideology disempowering Muslim females. The reason I say disempowering is because some of us have actually have spent their whole lifetime feeling that they were being empowered, but nevertheless it's been disempowering, not to say the least. So hopefully, inshallah, during the course of this program, we can see that what the Western ideology seems to inform us of empowerment can just as well be disempowering to not only our thought processes, but the way we live, the way we nurture our children, and the way we carry on with our lifestyles. At some point in this program, I'll probably be devil's advocate because I think that brings out a little bit more interesting conversation and discussion, a little bit of a debate. But yes, we do have questions, in terms of our lifestyles. Are we leading them according to Islam and our own culture? And do we feel empowered by doing that? Do we feel that by living in the West, we're being empowered to live in the way Islam wants us to live, and thereby taking on the Western culture? And is that empowering us, or is that really disempowering the Muslim female? So to answer some of these questions, we have with us today Dr. Rebecca Masterton, who needs no introduction other than the fact that she's a very learned scholar, a scholar that has a vast amount of knowledge, and feels that it's her duty to share that knowledge, not only with Project Zainab, with all types of forums that come her way. So we want to say thank you very much to Dr. Rebecca Masterton. Also, I want to say Assalamu alaikum, and thank you for coming on the program, Sister Faiza Abbas, who is also very prominent in the media world. She's also working as a host, has hosted many programs for Hidayah TV, but also for Zulfikar TV, and presents some of the news and the huge topics that come her way too. So thank you so much, both the sisters, and inshallah, throughout the course of the program, if there's anything that is that you feel that needs to be included, feel free to do so. We're looking at Western ideology, we're looking at its way of its empowerment towards women, but generally when we're talking about Muslim women, are we being disempowered in some form, shape or way? So here we are with two very, very scholarly ladies. Inshallah, we can ask you the same questions and how you feel about it. Where are we, what is it that's empowering? What is it that's disempowering? And it's, are we living the life of the, what makes it so difficult to live the life of the Ahlul Bayt, or, use them as role models in the UK or anywhere else in the West? It could be the US, it could be any other Western country. So first of all, I would ask to, I would give the forum to, or platform to, Sister Dr. Rebecca Masterton.
Thank you for the kind words. I don't classify myself as a scholar, but inshallah, I hope one day I'm just striving to be on that path, inshallah. And I want to say Assalamu alaikum to Sister Faiza, who I haven't met face to face, but before, so inshallah I hope that we see more of each other in future. So yeah, I suppose again I can go back to why I came into Islam. I think that might help viewers to think about the issue directly. where, you know, when a Western woman who's been brought up in a secular family, not very religious family, you know, changes, you know, actually kind of, you kind of turn your back on, not turn your back, but you take a stand against a lot of the messages that are given to you as a Western woman, which is that, yes, you know, Western women are the most empowered. They have worked hard to make life easier for other women as well. You know, they have empowered themselves in the workplace, and legally they have empowered themselves, and so on and so forth. So, you know, you are raised as someone who is supposedly growing up in an advanced culture, and you know, your job as a Western woman is just to follow the path that's been laid out for you over the previous decades, and get your career, and you know, follow the culture that you've been raised in. For me, I think, you know, what gets overlooked in the kind of culture that we have today for women in a very, very secularized West is, and this has been my one of my primary issues and why I came into Islam, is that Western secular culture is pretty much devoid of spirituality. So I see, you know, as human beings, we have a spiritual component, and this is just not being nurtured at all in a you know, Western, let's say, you know, British secular environment. With women, okay, yes, you can go to work, but now the situation has become that women don't have a choice. Women have to go to work because the economy has changed. So, you know, are women empowered to have choice? A lot of the time, no. They are forced to work in low-paid jobs, often on less salary than their male counterparts, and to have to work for male bosses who don't treat them very well, and they just have to tolerate that because they are contributing to the mortgage and, you know, schooling of the children and so on. So a woman is either an economic being, or else then we have the whole hyper toxic ultra sexualization of women, a lot of intensive pressure on women, especially with regard to the scrutiny of their physical shape. I mean, when you look at that from an Islamic perspective, it's actually quite shocking to think that a woman will post a picture of herself for the entire world to see and for the entire world to assess. From an Islamic perspective, that would just be borderline insane. Like, what are you doing? And why are you happy for people to scrutinize your private being? So, you know, when I discovered Islam, I discovered that according to the teachings of, you know, the Quran and the Ahlul Bayt alayhim salam, that as a woman, you are entitled to respect. You're entitled to be treated with respect, and you do not have to succumb to this pressure to exploit yourself in the society. I have also worked in various offices after my degree, while I was looking for my next direction in life, and my role was to make coffees for predominantly male bosses, and I just thought, well, why am I doing this? You know, did I study for this? Here I am, a supposedly liberated Western woman, but I'm making coffee for chauvinistic men who I'm not related to, when I could have been in another culture making a coffee for my husband or my family. So how am I more liberated when I'm either making coffee for my mahrams at home, or I'm making coffee for men who don't give two hoots about me. I'm just there to earn money for them. So to tell me how that I've become liberated by doing that. So this is some of my thoughts on how the mindsets of Western women have been molded and cultivated and groomed, I would say, and they don't realize it. Western women have been taken away from their fitra, and are losing, I would say, losing their sense and understanding of what it is to be a woman and the value of what it is to be a woman as well.
Can I just come in there and obviously I'm kind of going into the fitra aspect a little bit more, because I think in terms of fitra, we all need to be a little bit more educated. But where does it sit with our female being?
Yeah, so I guess it's not really easy to talk about what is your inner nature, the nature that you were created,
the innate aspect
by Allah. Yeah. Of course, I mean, there's been a lot of just debate and discussion in the secular sense on what is a male, what is a female, is it a social construct? But I think that sadly, the economic system that has been set up for decades, for hundreds of years, since the Renaissance and prior to Renaissance, the economic system has been set up by men for men. It is a structure that is suitable for men. But women they haven't questioned this. They haven't thought, wait a minute, this work environment is not suiting. It's not I need to breastfeed my child here, and I'm not able to do that because I've got to sit by the desk and get the deal for the bank that I'm working for. They've had to suppress their femininity, and I'm talking from articles that I've read again about women who are working in finance, who are working in the working world, and they feel that they cannot express their femininity and they cannot express their needs as a woman because they're going to get the sack. They're going to be sacked from their job. So women have had to adapt to an economy that has been designed by men for men. It works for men. So why is it an achievement for a woman to basically say, I have suppressed everything feminine about me. I have annihilated my femininity in order to, become a chairman on XYZ or in the boardroom or whatever. And that's an achievement. Mm-hmm. How is it to get a position in a system that has been designed by men for men? So Western women have had to basically, work against being what it is to be a woman. And that includes nurturing your children, giving birth and nurturing your children, and admitting that you care about your children, you want to spend time with your children. They can't do that because they're going to be laughed at and scorned and lose their jobs.
Yeah. Do you also feel that that we have a complete a different sense of what feminist kind of liberalism is in our heads? We've been just given this full sense of liberalism or freedom, or that we believe. I think that I also think that anyone who comes from the eastern part of the world will see that the western part has so much more to give females, and I think that might be a complete different false sense of security even.
Yeah, I think about this a lot. Like I've even kind of looked online, and I've looked at kind of videos on especially like the whole movie industry that was coming out of Hollywood, that's kind of started up in the 1920s really, and the whole Roaring Twenties thing, and how after the First World War, that's when things really started to change for women, and there started to be promoted, in the movies, the woman who is supposedly liberated. She's not a wife. She can pick and choose different men. She smokes, and she even uses bad language, and and this was seen as kind of rejection of had what had been conveyed to women as some form of oppression. So women have been told that you're being oppressed by having family responsibilities, and the way to be free is to get rid of those family responsibilities and just be individualistic and do whatever you want. The thing is that this may technically work, let's say, for a couple of years, but at some point, most women at some point, they want to find a husband and they want to settle down, and they want to be respected by their husband, but they have cultivated themselves in such a way that, number one, they're going to find a husband who wants a woman like that. Number two, they have lost the skills of having family responsibilities. So this has caused a family breakdown. So a lot of this so-called liberation is actually a way of undermining, the family structure. And again, of course, with the whole scenario about working, alhamdulillah, yes, we have many options for work these days, but a lot of the time, like I said, it's we're now working on the same treadmill that men are working on. So they're saying that women now are getting the same diseases that men get from working long hours in the same kind of job. Women are going bald in the same way that men go bald as a result of stress from working in these kinds of environments.
I'm just going to bring in Sister Faiza. Sister Faiza, you've come from, your background is from Pakistan, and you've observed many changes in women's lifestyles from not only the Eastern culture, but now how they've actually settled out here in the UK. And myself and you had a very good discussion just, I believe maybe a week ago, in which you said that you've observed how the females who have arrived from Pakistan, who are mainly maybe the first and second generation, and how they perceive UK or the Western lifestyle to be some form of empowerment.
Thank you so much, Sister Ruhi, for having me on this conversation. I'm very grateful, and salam to Sister Rebecca as well. And it was very inspirational discussion by Sister Rebecca. And when I came from Pakistan in 2006 over here, I had a very different view of like Western society, and it was very different from what I experienced in a way. And when I came here, and then I thought, oh, thank God I didn't born here. Initially, it was my first discussion to my own self. I didn't say it to anyone else, but I thought in my own self and within myself, oh my God, thank God I didn't born here, because the way people in the name of liberation or freedom, I've seen girls who were drunk on the roads, and the kind of environment over here, it was quite upsetting in a sense of, as a human, I was just very upset, like how they are, such humans are being, you can say, under this cultural influence of in the name of freedom, in the name of feminism, in the name of liberalism and things like that. And when I met here over here many women from Pakistan as well, and I have seen them in different, you can say, groups. You can say there were one who were housewives, and there were one who were like mix of them, like housewives and the working women, and there were few who were like kind of divorcees and didn't want to marry. There were three categories. First one, like there were housewives who were living within the you can say homes with the in-laws and the husbands. They were suppressed and oppressed through the negative behavior from the families, because they were like, obviously when you got married and come here, it is entirely new environment, and your documents are with your in-laws. I've seen many women who were so scared to talk about anything, they didn't even have phones with them, and they were like kind of kept in a way that they were unable to express themselves. And when I did
Mm.
ask them like, oh, what do you want, like I started writing at that time, and I did ask them, okay, what are you passionate about and what do you like doing and what is your passion? I mean, you should at least know, if even if you don't want to pursue it right now, at least you should know. And they said, no, we don't have time to do that, we can't do it because we don't have time. Our husbands, for example, yeah, or our in-laws or our home environment doesn't allow us. And some of them were not even able to speak to us over the phone. I mean, like I was trying to conduct some kind of you know uh, there was something, some kind of discussion.
Survey and discussion.
Yeah, and I did ask them to give me your opinion. It was just a simple, mere opinion. And they were afraid to share that opinion with me. And it was like general topic. It was not regarding anything related to their lives, personal lives, or something like that. But they were afraid to share that. There was other category who were like doing jobs as well as looking after their homes. And in that scenario, they were like they had freedom to choose to go out and work, but they were supposed to work under like family circumstances, like, oh, you can do this job or you can't do this job, and things like that. And you are supposed to wear, for example, these kind of clothes, or you are not supposed to wear these kind of clothes, for example, the way you have to dress up and things like that. And there was one category which was like kind of women who were like being divorced, like after second, third marriage, something like that. And you see, some of them like were having kind of illegal relationships with men's, even though they were all Muslims and all that. But they said, why should we pursue our families? Why should we look after our homes when we don't get that respect, when we are getting everything outside the marriage? Why should we go and make ourselves kind of under circumstances which have limitations and which have oppression and separation? Because I've seen women from Pakistan, and very closely I know them personally, and they were really wonderful. And what happened to them was like their husband has their documents, their in-laws had their documents, and they didn't allow them to even go for sure start. We do have workshops,
Mm.
mothers and parents, for like confidence and other well-being workshops. They were unable to attend those because they were not allowed to, because their in-laws and their, for example, husband didn't want them to learn English. They wanted to learn, obviously. When you come from Pakistan, you don't have that accent, you don't have that exposure over here, like you want to get mixed up with the people over here. But what happened here is, when they come to in-laws and they stay with their husband or whatever, they are maybe insecure or maybe afraid of their abilities, or they don't want them to have that exposure or whatever. For whatever reason, they don't allow them to learn English, uh, get mixed up with other women and things like that. And there are certain women I've met in adult centers as well, when I was learning different things over there as well, because my kids born here and I wanted to learn something, wanted to know what they are learning in the school. So it was an opportunity for me to learn like English and maths courses. Okay, this is the kind of primary learning stuff which my children might be learning and
Mm.
things like that. And over there, I met many women who were from Pakistan and India, you can say, but most of them were Pakistani. So the same was the case with them as well. And when I was also working within a school, primary school, and we had a big circle of women, like you can say more than 40 plus women, and it was mixed culture. It's not like just women from Pakistan or something. It was like all sort of African and white and Indian, Pakistani, and different from social backgrounds they were from. And we all, as when we were talking about as mothers and things like that, they were all same on the table. Like they had nearly same issues at home in terms of behavior, in terms of disrespectfulness, you can
Mm.
say. Like if they are looking after their children and not doing jobs and staying at home, we used to discuss like, okay, this is something we are facing in our, for example, family life. And they said, we are facing the same, issues in our family lives. And it was quite interesting for me as well to know, like, okay, we were used to think like, oh, it is just our family life which have these kind of issues in our families and things like that. But then I came to know, no, it's something with them as well. And more interesting was that there were many women who did not even know like who their husband was and who their children father was. And I mean, it was there were so many like things which I came across which were quite different and quite interesting as well. So I feel as a Muslim woman, for example, from Pakistan, I've seen culture over there as well. Over there, even as well, people don't wear hijab because Deen says it. People wear hijab because husband says it. People wear hijab because in-laws wants it, for example. And if somebody wants to wear hijab, for example, in somewhere, they say they think like, oh, people will see me in this way, and they sometimes want to wear it but they don't wear it just because people will label them and things like that. It's just an example of hijab. So in the same way, there are rules of Islam. We don't own the rules of Islam in a sense like we respect them and care them or love them. We are just because we born Muslim, so we just try to practice whatever we come across. We just fast and go for Hajj, and we pray 5 times sometime. And if we don't want, we don't. I mean, so I mean, it's not something we are like taking it as a something very precious. We are practicing it like something in context of culture. I mean, in the whole scenario, the culture was something which was motivating us, which was moving us in the name of Islam somewhere, in some terms, in some places. But overall, if you see, there is lack of understanding, and it is something I'm talking about not only for Shia women. I'm not talking about them. It is like overall, I'm saying, like there were so many Sunni Muslim sisters I've met and I came across and things like that. So in that context, like there are mix of all Muslim women around. I mean, I've seen and I met, and these kind of things I've seen. And because when they are looking, I had a friend, and my kids were used to go in the same school, and she was used to look after their children. And her husband was like comparing her with her sister-in-law, like her sister, and said, oh, you don't look after your children well, and you don't clean your house well, and see my sister, how clean she has the house and things like that. And she was so upset, and we were just talking while coming back from the school. So he said, I couldn't sleep all night. In the morning, I had 3 little children to look after. I had to wake up in the early morning, and I brought my children to school, and I left the other one at home. And now I will go back and I won't be able to sleep because I have to, for example, give him food and have to clean house, I have to cook and all that. The thing is, we have to teach our community, because home is a sacred place, and it's the only sacred institution we have got at the moment. And at the moment we are under different kinds of slogans which are affecting our women, our homes, our men's even. And we all look through the, you can say, mirror, or look through the
Lens.
eyes of liberalism or feminism or
Yeah.
freedom of speech or things like that. These kind of slogan, we see things out of those, instead of like enforcing the rules and regulations of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala out of love, not out of authority. The thing is, in our countries even and around us, we teach religion as authority. Oh, you have to do it, you're supposed to do it. We don't teach them how Allah loves you, how Allah cares for you, how important He is for you, what Tawheed is. We don't even know. I mean, I personally didn't know who the woman is actually. And I always thought like, oh, every woman, I mean, I was used to listen to this thing all my life, like, oh, woman is inferior to men because she is just there to look after him, and Allah has created her for a man. If man was not created, woman was not created, things like that. And it was quite upsetting, and I couldn't get the answer from very, very long time. Like I couldn't get this answer. What is the difference between men and women and things like that? And then I tried to keep on searching and keep on investigating what's going on. And certain things which really inspired me as a woman when I tried to learn about it was that woman was the symbol of beauty. When we read the name of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, we have some names which represents the beauty, softness, the Rauf and Rahim and mercifulness, and Latif and kind of which reflects softness, love, kindness, care, something like that, and beauty as well. Whereas the other name, there are the names which represents like protection, which strength and quwwat. You can say, the Al-Fatahu, Al-Jabbar, and the names like that. So the Jalal, names of Jalal, you can say. So then I came across while learning and investigating that woman was beauty and Allah created man for her protection. And they both are in service of each other. There is no competition between them. When they both meet, then that Tawheed becomes complete in other way. Because when Jalal and you can say beauty both come together, the whole picture becomes complete. And that's the beauty of Islam. And that is something we have never heard in my life. I never heard it. Like I had always been looking for the meaning. Oh my God, what's going on?
Yes, because we've been fed certain different perspectives. Dr. Rebecca Masterton, in light of what we've been sold by the West, how difficult is it for us to change that kind of attitude that has kind of kicked in and has fed into our system?
Sorry. I think it's important to, again, bearing in mind what Sister Faiza has said, we have kind of, a region, let's say, the West, where we have a kind of extreme individualism that is being promoted, and narcissism among women, to the point that we now have this thing called mikto, men going their own way, who want nothing to do with women, and certainly not to get married. And then we also have, a region like, say, Pakistan or other kind of Middle East countries as well, where again, actually, like Sister was saying, Islam is not being implemented. We have kind of almost like two kind of extremes, and neither of these extremes are, in accordance with what is in harmony with our nature as human beings. And I think what is happening is that, of course, women are growing up in the kind of environment that Sister Faiza has described. Then this image of this, of a Western woman or a Westernized woman who is technically free to do whatever she wants, to say whatever she wants, to go wherever she wants, and no one is allowed to restrict her. I mean, of course, that's going to look appealing from that perspective. So I think the question comes back to how can we resolve these cultural issues of women not being given the authority and the power that they have been in Islam in different Muslim cultures, and even being too afraid to speak out or to say what they want, and not to be given opportunities to flourish in the way that they need to. How can we change that within the parameters of Islam? Rather than kind of replacing that model that Sister Faiza has talked about with this toxic secular Western model, we need to promote, like Sister said, how she learned more about the dynamics between men and women as taught in Islam. Then if we need to get more of that out, like you say, I think you know, we need to emphasize more the mahabba, the love that Allah has for creation. I often think about how Islam, you know, how the Holy Prophet, peace be upon him, was successful because people loved him. Like, he was successful because of his personality. People came to Islam because they loved the Holy Prophet, not because he commanded them, you have to do this or you have to do that. So so I often think about all these different movements that claim to be enforcing Islam. You know, across the world, we get these different movements, and they kind of psychologically pressurize people into pledging their allegiance and saying, you know, we represent Islam, and if you don't side with us, then you're against Islam. It's like, but the Holy Prophet, that was never the method of the Holy Prophet.
No.
He had a personality that people loved and they wanted to join him. So if you have the kind of personality where people, the right kind of personality, where people want to emulate you and be close to you and to follow you, you know, that's how it should be.
So we've lost out on role models, and we need more role models who actually on a personal, not on a personal level, on a public level, are showing us the actual, you know, the way of the Ahlul Bayt. So, you know, my other question would be, how do we go and grab them? Because we're seeing now more than ever, we're seeing emasculated males. We're seeing females who are, you know, very kind of headstrong, moving towards a lot of the male attitude, or if you want to call them alpha males, as one term suggests. You know, where are we going? Where are we going? Because I was born in UK. Okay, I was born in UK. I've grown up in the UK, and I've tried to bring up my children in the same kind of way that I was, but I see it becoming, you know, a mammoth task to bring your children up in the Western society, and you've got so many huge influences or influencers, which kind of cut your role. What do we do?
I mean, I'm now reaching the point where I mean, I don't know whether I'm correct or not, but I'm starting to think that, I mean, all these years, you know, we've been having discussions with different Muslim families and talking about how you can be a Muslim in the West, and technically, you know, yes, you should be able to be a Muslim anywhere in the world, and Muslims have worked very hard to you know, be able to practice their religion in an entirely different environment. But I'm sometimes thinking that should Muslims be putting themselves in that situation? I'm not saying it's everybody has a choice. A lot of people, you know, I mean, a lot of people don't have the choice because we now have Western governments that have trashed other people's countries, destroyed their countries, and you know, there's no jobs, there are no schools, and so they're now having to come west or to westernized countries to try to survive. And I don't have a good feeling about it. I don't feel like, oh yeah, here, you know, now that you're here, it's going to be okay. It's like, I'm thinking, oh no, now you're going to have a whole other set.
Yeah, absolutely.
And if people have the choice, I would say move, because I'm thinking it's not looking good, really. And how long can you go on exhausting yourself trying to, you know, raise your children within the bounds of Islam? I mean, I was in Turkey some of the time during lockdown, and I was encountering, you know, Syrian refugees, but I was noticing, and they're kind of on the street, you know, sometimes little children asking for money or whatever. I still noticed, even among the children that are asking for money, they have an akhlaq that we just don't have over here. They have just that beauty of character and shyness and politeness and respect that you just don't see over here. And I thought, look at that. Even though they're in such a bad situation, they've still got something that we don't have anymore. And So if I think, I don't know, I haven't got the answers, but where do you move to? But I would say ideally move to an area where at least there is some kind of support for the way you want to raise your children, at least on a basic level, where it's okay to wear hijab, or people have still got some kind of sense of respect and akhlaq.
We went back to in the the first part of the discussion was around the fitrah. Would you say that now more than ever, the fitrah for a female that must kick in or should kick in should be the sacrificing part? Because it's once she's become a mother, her self usually comes second anyway, and she puts her children first. So now people like myself who've grown up in the UK and now realize and recognize that, things aren't as hunky-dory as our parents had thought when they first moved in. We can now see things a lot more. We perhaps have a little bit more vision to see where things aren't as appropriate or may be appropriate in the future for our children. So this is, don't you think, the time where, we have to make some huge decisions for our children?
No, I think it's really reached crisis point. I think that, or not crisis point, but it's reached a time where I cannot say to people who I even know people who are still trying to come here and migrate here to the UK, and I'm just, I just don't think it looks good. And we have a lot of Muslim youth obviously in the UK who are, I think, why put them through that, in a sense, where they're confused about their identity, they're being called terrorists at school or attacked by the teacher because they're wearing hijab. They're having to deal with so much. And on top of that, they've got to be so-called successful in their career. Then they've got to think about marriage. That's a whole other, oh my God, like, nowadays it's almost impossible for people to find happiness in with a good spouse. Then they've got to raise that. It's just too much, I think. And I'm just thinking that we've really, I don't have all the answers, but like you say, I mean, we've got to seriously think about the next few generations.
Yeah, absolutely. Sister Faiza Basfakra, just ask you, do you ever feel that there are some policies that the government has kind of put out there, mandated in kind of sugaring up, sweetening up for our kind of females, the Muslim females, and they believe that they're actually being empowered by these strategies or policies?
I think so. Obviously, they have tools, different types of tools in the name of feminism, liberalism, and communism. Under those slogans, they do give you certain opportunities. Oh, come here and do this, for example, learn these skills and empower yourself. And for example, learn that skill, and that's how you're gonna be effective in your home. And if there are certain strategies they are using in order to bring the women out of their homes, because they are already oppressed behind, and they know this factor as well, and they are using that factor as a tool because they know our situation very well. Even we don't even know ourselves very well, but they know and they understand, because these are the people who have studied philosophy and social subjects which constitute or form a society, and how to create or destruct or renovate or innovate, whatever you say, a society. And we as a people, we are just blind followers of, oh, this is the opportunity, we should gain it. We don't think about it, how it's gonna affect our spirituality, our connection to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, our family, our akhlaq or our iman or whatever you say. And whereas God has given us certain values. I mean, even if a wife give water to her husband, I mean, it's a kind of a big, you can say, neki or virtue in the eye of Allah. And when she is performing some kind of housework, for example, cleaning or cooking or something, she is the closest one. And she is most closer to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And whatever she asks for from Allah, Allah bless her with that. So I guess, I mean, there are strategies, there are tools they are using, and our women are coming, are, under that trap as well, in some ways. Not all of them, but there are many. So we need to, I think so, we should have some kind of think tanks or people who are serious about their community issues, and they should create some kind of vision, some kind of 5-year, 10-year issues coming up of, like, my son is going to school in the high school, and they are used to say, oh, it's okay to be gay, for example. It's okay to be gay, even though it doesn't match up with our own values. And it's really sometimes hard to make them understand, like, it's not okay to be gay, for example.
Yeah.
And these are the kind of values when they clash. We as a parent, for example, we are studying and we are communicating with our children and we are discussing things, so it's little bit easy to make them understand it's not right. But there are many parents I know who don't even know what's going on in their schools.
Yeah, absolutely. If I can just stop you there, sister. It's just I want to bring attention to a lot of the people who will be probably watching this either live tonight or maybe the recording the day after. But, there has been millions and billions of pounds and dollars that have gone into the industry to actually lobby for the LGBTQ organizations across the UK and the West. The whole of Europe and the whole of the USA is kind of, is actually, loaded with that kind of the funds that are coming in. My question to you is that, do you think that parents, unless they are going to be knowledgeable about this kind of funding that's going on, or knowledgeable about their children's education and what is going into their curriculum, can they make those changes? Can they, work towards giving their children a better education, or perhaps looking into it a bit more deeply?
If you are asking me, I guess so. They are supposed to look into it very deeply, because many of the, especially parents from Asian families, there are many who are, for example, illiterate or less educated, or don't even understand what's going on in the schools, especially in primary schools and high schools and all that. They just think like, okay, I've seen many young boys in the parks who are like from the Muslim families using abusive languages and things like that, because they are not being taught by their parents. They are not attached to their parents, and their parents are not teaching them Islamic values, which are, and one of the most important values, akhlaq. And we are missing that very deeply, and which is even we say it's very modern word and things like that. When you see children from other communities as well, and they use swear words, and our children come up with those words, and obviously everyone is using them either in fun or in serious or whatever way. We don't even ask them, oh, you are not supposed to say that. It's not a good word. Or many parents don't even object that. So we are supposed, as a community, we really need to take stands. We need to understand there is a time coming off when you can't even teach your children your religion at home. You can't introduce them, like, okay, you nowadays we as a parent can say, oh, you are Muslim, you are supposed to do this and that. But in coming years we can see that we are not able to do that. If we invest
I just want to bring in Sister Rebecca here, because Dr. Rebecca and myself have previously discussed this whole idea about the prevent strategy and the other kind of strategies that have come into force in the last decade or so, and how it's impacted the Muslim family life, without there being too much of a hoo-ha being made out in the communities. But it has impacted people from not their working life, but obviously that goes back into the home again. But secondly, how females are actually being employed to actually bring, support this kind of strategy in the most swiftest of ways, without recognizing how it comes back, bouncing back and hitting back at the household of the Muslim, back at the Muslim household generally.
You're asking me about the prevent
strategies and other strategies that have actually that I know, and we remember discussing my dissertation once upon a time, and one day I will actually write the book, I promise,
inshallah,
and bring it out. But it is important to actually notify our viewers that there are strategies that people have been employed to bring out as part of the government policy or strategy, and it has impacted the Muslim household.
Yeah, I mean, I think that Muslims are not aware enough on how strategic the government is. I mean, look, this is the ex center of, this country technically had an empire 100 years ago. You think they won't have learned some strategies on how to maintain power? I mean, the only reason why they don't outwardly have some kind of empire now is because politically or economically it didn't suit. I mean, of course, there were uprisings, but they have always, even when there were uprisings, say, the campaign to get the British out of India, and then in up to the 1940s, even during that time, the British was strategically looking at, okay, what's going to be to our benefit once we are no longer ruling over India. And then when Pakistan was being made, the British were discussing among themselves, okay, so what is going to be strategically to our benefit with the foundation of Pakistan? That's how they've always looked at, the world. And so with this prevents, kind of program that is kind of supposedly trying to cultivate a so-called moderate Islam, and getting people to report on each other and form kind of links with the police and so on and so forth. Again, there's just a lot of psychological programming going on. This is what Muslims don't realize here, that this government is, the goals that it sets up and the kind of so-called support for Muslim women that it claims to put out there. It's all part of a kind of initiative to try to bring Muslim women and Muslim families closer to the strategies of the government, and
sweet talking them into becoming,
into getting them to cooperate and do their bidding, become their foot soldiers.
Why aren't women educated enough to see, or let's just say, not knowledgeable in this kind of department, in this area, to see where the government is? Why have we become so sold to any idea or strategy that comes about from the government, and we actually start believing that it has something that benefits us?
I guess it kind of, people haven't studied history, so they think that this is a brand new, shiny, thing that's on offer. And oh wow, look, we're making progress. And of course there's been research done on like exactly like you say, and like Sister Faiza was saying, how there's been research done on what's going on in communities, and that is getting exploited. So it can sound very convincing, you're oppressed in your homes and we want to help you with that. We know what's going on in your homes, so we're going
literally looking for the weaknesses in the community. And that's how we literally sell ourselves out, basically, not recognizing who the enemy is within.
And it's like, what we should be doing, like I said, is actually set, that there should be funds going into resolving these problems at home from an Islamic perspective. But maybe because that's lacking, it's not coming forth. It's easy for a very heavily funded kind of UK government programs to come in and get women who have gone to university and have studied and become social workers and whatever, psychologists, and they feel that they're kind of progressing and moving ahead, and the way to progress and move ahead is to work on these government programs. And then after a while they start to think, hey, government's not so bad. Yeah, they're nice people.
Yeah, somebody's just actually written this up as a statement to say that because we're given a free education, people thought this is a great idea and that they must care about us so blindly, so that then they kind of had the true faith sent them to, sending them to school and they don't question the agenda, because we don't have that, some of us are very innocent minded when we come from places like South Asia. And, that's not our, excuse me.
I would like to Sister Ruhi, if you don't mind.
Yes, please do.
I would say, like, we do say here in UK or Western culture, you have freedom of speech and you have freedom of thought and you have freedom of expression and freedom of, you don't even have freedom on the Facebook, you can say. So this is the real freedom. You need to see who you are talking about and what you can't talk about, and things we can't talk about are the more real and actual. And when you talk about political exploitation ongoing on the human lives, you are nowhere. At the moment, we are in a kind of prison, and our women should step into it, I would say, because women have children in their home, and women are looking after the generations. They need to step in and they need to work as in kind of with a certain vision and a certain sincerity and certain ikhlas for the community as a whole, as a ummah, you can say. That what is going on to all the humanity is not just about one culture or one person or something like. It's about in entire humanity, because they are dealing with the entire humanity in according to, for depending on their own needs, for example.
Yeah, of course.
So we really need to look after it. You see, my daughter goes to school, and in her class, most of the children are from like white British, you can say. You can say like she is the only one who is like Pakistani, and rest of the whole class is most, or there is one African, I think so, and one Chinese, but rest of the class is like from a British, race, you can say. And in that one, there are most of the children who are foster, who are coming up with mental health issue, in the sense of like, because they are from broken families and their personalities are not like very comfortable with anyone, you can say. They have certain issues in their personalities, and it's been 4 years, more than 4 years she is studying there, and she is very friendly. I mean, if you will speak to her or meet with her, she is very down to earth, very friendly and very helpful, and you can say a person who can be friend with anyone. And she couldn't have a single friend in 4 years, you can say. Who she could say like, oh mama, she is my friend. And when she was going in another school, it was the school where she studied like in reception and nursery, you can say. She used to have few friends, like she used to still remember, oh mama, I had those 2 friends and I really miss them. I couldn't find anyone like them, because you see the difference of culture, the difference of values, and difference of
absolutely, you
kind of oppression in behavior and things
absolutely.
Like that. So
it pushes your way to living with, picking and choosing your own kind of community, which is suited to your mindset. Whether people have that kind of mindset. I know I shifted, I shifted my children from one aspect of our community, which was I felt that they were doing, they spent, if they were in some kind of Islamic center, that they would constantly be backbiting and things like that. So I shifted them from that, because I felt, that's not how I want to raise my children. because that's kind of giving that. So we've had to pick and choose different aspects of our own communities to try and give the best to our own children. And that is very, very difficult. I have come across like past 10 o'clock now. We've gone over an hour. This is the most wonderful topic I've ever chosen to put on Project Zainab. And we could talk about this for hours and hours and hours. But I will say this to people who are watching Project Zainab today, by no means is this going to be a topic that is going to be just left, because although we have opened a can of worms here, we want to kind of relate back to you, which brings it to us to the more important aspects of this as well, because it's not just about the Western ideology, how it touches us, but how we also kind of integrate within the community ourselves also, because that also binds in with how we are kind of pushed away from each other as well by the Western ideology. But I want to bring you sisters back, inshallah, in the next few weeks. Haven't got a date to give as a confirmation, but inshallah we can continue this talk perhaps in a couple of weeks' time, and hopefully bring on part 2 of this discussion, because I know this is a very, very important discussion. So I want to say, I know it seems like I've had to cut you through, Sister Faiza, but I just want to say thank you so much to Dr. Rebecca Masterton and Sister Faiza for coming on to Project Zainab Live tonight. And inshallah, we'll see you both in the next few weeks' time. We will schedule that again. And hopefully we can continue the discussion, because I know it's a very, very important discussion. Tomorrow, this time, 9 o'clock, we have Sheikh Hamza Sodakar, who will be discussing akhlaq from the Quran, akhlaq families in the Quran. And inshallah, 9 o'clock tomorrow, and he will have his lecture. We have a few more wonderful people coming to us. One of them is Brother Neil Nasser, talking about the work that he does in the community. And I think he's favorable amongst a lot of the workers that we've seen who are very, very selfless in our community. We have Sister Sakina Naqvi from Florida, who will be coming in. We have sisters also coming in from Pakistan who will be talking about the work they are doing to make a massive change. But this is Project Zainab Live. We will always bring to you something that benefits your family and your community. Inshallah, look forward to seeing you tomorrow evening, 9 p.m. with Sheikh Hamza Sodakar. Thank you so much, sisters. Look forward to seeing you all again.